Okay, hello and welcome back to my channel. Well guys, we did it. Today's the day. This is she. So today I'm going to be reviewing the Pat McGrath Mothership IX palette. It's been a couple of years since we've seen a new palette from Pat McGrath. Obviously it's 2021. We haven't seen one since 2019. 2020 was a hard year. We all know the story. Okay, so this one is called the Huetopian Dream palette. I think like everybody else, I was expecting a rainbow palette when I saw the promo for this, and this is not a rainbow palette. But nonetheless, this is still a palette that I was very, very excited for, mostly because it looks like everyday wearable colors that anybody would want to use and that are very easy to throw on. So I actually did this review in kind of a different way than I normally do my reviews. This time I took the time to do a one and done look with all of these eyeshadows. So I'll be showing clips of that and reviewing each shadow individually because that's what this is about. It's about the shadows. I bought this palette from the Pat McGrath website, but I will note that it's now available on Sephora and I would recommend buying through Sephora. They're a bigger retailer, they have better shipping capabilities, it will get to you faster if you buy it through Sephora. The only other exception to that is if there's a Pat McGrath sale going on whenever you're watching this video. Take advantage of the Pat McGrath sale because those are the best discounts you're ever going to get on Pat McGrath. She usually does up to 30 or sometimes even 40% off, so I would wait a little bit until she does do a sale. So her Mothership palettes, for any of you guys who aren't familiar, are her 10-pan palettes. So these palettes are $125 at full price. In this bundle, the way I purchased it was with the rest of the launch, which is this artistry wand. This was a bundle for $132. So it was a pretty good deal for the artistry one. I really wanted the artistry one, if I'm being completely honest. So I guess let's go ahead and take a look at the palette. I'll name the shades starting on the top row going from left to right. So the first one is Skin Show Nude Ecstasy. It's a really pretty shimmer formula. The next one across from that is Secret Eden, really pretty soft matte pink, and then Bronze Desire, and again another shimmer. And then we finally reach her special shades. This palette only has 3 special shades. She usually includes 4. So this first one is Bronze Solaris 5. So it's kind of just another typical gold. We've seen this before from her. Next one is Astral Venusian Orchid. And then starting on the bottom row, Extreme Plum Noir, Cosmic Bloom, Shockwave, Blitz Sextreme, and then Astral Amethyst Moon. So in this palette, we have 3 mattes, 4 shimmers, and then 3 of her special Blitz Astral formula. So it's a pretty well-rounded palette, definitely very shimmer heavy. That's something to keep in mind, especially because this palette is so expensive. You really want to like shimmer if you're buying this palette. So I think we should probably just jump right into the looks. I'll show you each eyeshadow and how they look on the eyes, as well as some swatches at the end. So starting off with the first shade, Skin Show Nude Ecstasy. So this one, I thought it had a really good opacity, obviously beautiful. The quality is always great with Pat McGrath, that's just kind of the thing she's known for. But I really, really liked the way this one turned out. Obviously a perfect inner corner color, but could also be used all over the lid for just a simple, easy eye look. I think all of these shades you'll find out are actually really great one and done shades, and they really don't need a lot of extra stuff. I mean, just throw something on the lid and it's good to go. So this one was an easy 5 stars. It works great all over the lid, works great in the inner corner, has good color behind it. It was beautiful. So 5 stars for sure. The next shade, Secret Eden. This one I really liked. It blends out fantastically. There's never a problem with Pat McGrath's mattes blending out. The only qualm I have with this one, if it even is a qualm, is that I kind of needed to build up a couple of layers to get a good opacity, which isn't a problem. I would rather it be a little bit more flexible in that way because I know that it will build up eventually, but that's something to keep note of with that shade in particular. But even still, I think I'd still give it 5 stars. It's really good. It's not too dusty, but it's not too stiff. So the next one is Bronze Desire. So this one I thought was so smooth and so creamy, and I was actually really surprised by this one. I really, really like this one all over the lid. Just a perfect everyday look. I think I paired this one with an inner corner highlight, and that would be the first shade, Nude Ecstasy. It kind of just needs a little brightening in the corner, but other than that, it's beautiful all by itself. Just stunning. I mean, it's just beautiful. It's what you would expect. And I would give that one, again, 5 stars. So the next one is Bronze Solaris 005. This one is the gold one. I actually wasn't as big of a fan as this gold. I think she has other golds in her other formula, in her other palettes that are actually metallics and not Blitz Astrals. I prefer the metallics whenever it comes to the gold. This one just seems too much glitter, and it's kind of all over the face a little bit, but it's a really good color. I think it's a really good color of gold. Nice yellow, but not too yellow. I'll give it a 4 stars, I think. Yeah, that feels right. 4 feels good. Okay, so this last shade on the top row, Astral Venusian Orchid, I think is how you say it. This was kind of the color that we were all kind of waiting for. It's beautiful, it's versatile, you can build it up, you can leave it as a sheer wash of color. I just wish it kind of had a little bit more of the shift. I feel like I couldn't really see it. Maybe it's just my lighting. Again, maybe it's just because I put it on 5th in this lineup. Who knows? But I still think that it's a really great Blitz Astral from Pat McGrath. I would give it a 5 stars. So the next shade on the bottom row, first one on the bottom row, is called Extreme Plum Noir. Looking at it, it kind of looks a bit more maroon, but whenever you actually pick it up and swatch it and put it on the eye, it's definitely a lot more purple. So this one is the matte formula. Pretty straightforward. You can look at it and tell it's a matte. I didn't like this one pretty much at all. It's one thing for me to not like the color as much. The color's fine. It kind of gives me like a black eye look effect, which I'm like, I don't know. But it's definitely great for deepening up the rest of the shades. I think it was essential in this palette, but not really as much as a 1 in 10 shade. Additionally, I think this color was too stiff. So I had a really hard time blending it out. It was kind of a hot mess. So that's something I would look out for. I don't know if it's just my palette or if it's all of the formulas. I mean, just something is weird about that color and I don't know why. Because of that, I'll give it 3 stars. The next shade is Cosmic Bloom. This one was actually pretty dang surprising. I think this is my favorite shade in the whole palette. I was not expecting this to be anything special. She makes pink metallics. I mean, the woman can make a pink metallic. She's made so many before. But this one was so stunning on the eyelids. Just all over the lid. I think did I put an inner corner with this one? I may have put an inner corner with this one. I don't know. I'll put it on the screen. Yeah, this is stunning. Just an absolutely stunning pink metallic formula. Beautiful. Looks really smooth. It looks like an even metallic, which is sometimes hard to find. And yeah, I gave it a 5 stars. The next one, this one is called Shockwave. It's a beautiful pop of coral. I think a lot of people were excited for this color because it's kind of new in the Pat McGrath lineup. I mean, all of these shades are new, but this one looks the most different from anything else we've seen from her. I love this coral. It's beautiful. It's the perfect matte. I think it blends out perfectly, good opacity, and I was just surprised that the color in the pan looks the exact same as the color on your eye. That's really hard to do, especially with a matte. I give this one obviously a 5 stars. All right, so the next one, this one is the Blitz Sex Dream. It's not really a Blitz Astral formula. It's definitely more of a metallic. It swatches like a metallic. It's just not a Blitz Astral. It's not the typical Blitz Astral that she comes out with in what people call her special shades. So this one is kind of a duochrome. It shifts from green to gold to red. Whenever it looks that dark of a green, you look kind of sickly, and I found that out with one of her other shades in another palette that I'll be bringing up later. This one actually really surprised me as well. It's a lot better. The duochrome looks more natural than I think the other one did. Again, just a perfect smooth metallic. There was no fallout with this one, and some of the other metallics kind of had a little bit of kickback whenever you swatched it in the pan. I mean, it's just an incredible formula, and I think that's probably the reason why it looks so good. Also, the pigment itself is better than I think she's done before. So again, 5 stars. The last shade in the palette is called Astral Amethyst Moon. So this is really the anchoring color that kind of changes the game for the whole thing. It's what I'm wearing on my eyes right now. Anyway, so this one is a Blitz Astral formula. It's actually very, very sheer. You have to build it up quite a bit, and I actually ended up using the pen for this one to build it up. It swatches pretty good, lots of fine glitter in it, and kind of all over the face a little bit with this one as well. Still beautiful, I still really like it, but it is definitely a little flaky. The color is really what does it for me. It's kind of just like an unusual purple that I just don't own in my collection. So it's really unique in that way. It has a shift from purple to blue-ish. It's just a really unique color, and I think for that reason, that's kind of what intrigues a lot of people about this palette in the first place. 5 stars, full stop. So I averaged together all of my little stars from all 10 shades, and the overall rating I would give this palette is a 4.7 stars out of 5. I think that overall, I mean, the quality of Pat McGrath's formula is kind of unbeaten in a lot of ways, and that's really what draws people to the collection. But on top of that, it's kind of just a collector's palette. It's a pretty good palette from her, and definitely one of my absolute favorites that I own from her. So next I want to compare this palette to some of the other palettes that I do own that I thought I had some shades that looked similar to these. So I own the Pat McGrath Divine Rose 1, the Pat McGrath Celestial Divinity palette, and then also the Pat McGrath Flora Fantasia palette. So I'll go through all of these, show you swatches of them. Let's start first with the Divine Rose 1. So this one, I just thought visually kind of looks the same. A lot of people call this one the Divine Rose 3, the Huetopian palette, mostly because it's very rosy. Lots of pinks in there, lots of colors that look almost the same, but not quite. I would actually agree with that. I think that the reason that the Divine Rose 1 does not match up with this one is there's really no exact repeats. A couple of them look kind of close, like the inner corner color. What is that? Nude Ecstasy, I think. So that one looks actually really close, but it's not identical. Definitely some differences. You can definitely see some differences overall in the palette too. So the next palette I compared it to was the Pat McGrath Flora Fantasia. I thought that the blues and purples in this palette would actually really line up pretty closely with the Huetopian palette. That's not the case, just not the case at all. The Flora Fantasia palette is definitely a lot more pastel. It's definitely a different vibe, and I like both of them, and I think both of them hold a separate place. One of the palettes though that I thought was super close was actually the Celestial Divinity palette. So this one came out in 2020 as a holiday palette, so it's no longer around. So the Celestial Divinity palette actually was such a good palette. I'm really sad it's discontinued. The Divinity palette is more bold. They do have some really close purple shades. I will put side by side comparisons between the two. But again, there's no exact matches between these two palettes. One of the palettes that I also thought about whenever I was looking at the purple in this palette was the Alamar Cosmetics Spanglish palette. So I swatched both of those out and I put the Pat McGrath one in the middle. As you can tell, very close, probably closer than any of her other palettes. Again, still not quite the same. One of the shades is much more purpley than the Bliss Astral, and then another shade is actually, I think, way too light. It's kind of more bluey gray. So I don't really have any identical dupes in my collection, and I think that's a really great reason for me purchasing this palette. It kind of fits a specific niche in my collection, and it fits it in a way where I think I will use it every day, and it won't just sit on a shelf. So my final thoughts on this palette. I think that it's a really wearable palette. I think that obviously there's an incredible formula, there's no question there. Pat McGrath puts out a lot of incredible formulas, this palette is no exception. On my channel, you could probably tell, I mostly do easy everyday beauty for the average consumer. I think that this is a really big advantage of this palette. This isn't the wild crazy rainbow palette that everybody thought this was gonna be, but I think that it is still a really good palette just for the everyday person that likes wearing makeup and likes looking a little special, but like effortless still. You want it to take 2 minutes. I think that this palette, you can come up with really easy looks that fit right into your routine, and that's definitely the case for me. It definitely fits into my little box, my little formula of how I do my makeup, and I don't have to try super hard to make it look good. So I think that this is a stunning palette, and I think that a lot of people will really like it. And I mean, it's no crazy palette, but I still love it, and I think that a lot of people will. So hopefully this review helped you out in deciding if you want to pick up the palette, or if you want to wait a little bit, or if you want to wait even more, who knows. Those are basically all of my thoughts on the Huetopian Dream palette. Like the video if you like the video, and I will see you at the same time, same place next week. Bye! If you are new here, I'd appreciate it if you took the time to press the subscribe button, stick around for more reviews, more content. I mean, more of me really is what it comes down to. Anyway, take the time to subscribe. You know what? That's not my channel. I don't say that kind of stuff. At this point, I'm like, why am I even rating these anymore? Like, it's so redundant, but whatever.